When I say I don't love something, doesn't mean I hate or I don't like. On the contrary, I liked Rogue One. I never hated Rogue One. I liked it, but I don't enjoy it as much as everyone else would. After this movie was shown, there were a couple of friends of mine telling me that Rogue One was so good that it beats Force Awakens and probably all this, and everyone's saying, "Oh, it's the Star Wars prequels that we actually need." I came in to see the movie on the opening day, and I remember I had a big headache. So my friends and we went out and eat some stuff. It was snowing, and we enjoyed the view. We had some really good burgers, and it was like, oh, it feels better. But then after seeing this movie, I was like, oh man, my head hurts, and I couldn't really think straight about this film. I just found it to be somewhat boring, especially the first half. I wasn't really excited. I left with a kind of a misty feeling, very ambiguous. I don't know whether to love it or to hate it. Second time I watched with a friend of mine from States. We went to a really good theater. This time I don't have my headache anymore. We have the VIP seats, the kind of seats where the sofa and you can put your feet up. So I'm seeing it in a premium condition, the best condition I can possibly get. And yeah, I liked it a little bit more, but I haven't grown to love this film as much as everyone else said would. I also read some of the reviews. Jeremy Jones really liked it. Chris Stuckman was okay with it. In fact, his comment was less than positive about it. And there was others like my favorite James Rolfe, who really doesn't do movie reviews, and he saw Rogue One, and he doesn't really like it. So is Doug Walker. But the people who really loved it, really, really, really loved it. So it's becoming like one of those polarized movies, and but the public is leaning more towards liking it. It's only a small group of people that didn't like it. I don't hate it. I don't hate it. I don't dislike it as much as all the other critics I mentioned. But I do think it's kind of a overrated movie. For one, I feel like this movie is crammed with a lot of cameo appearances, a lot of fan service, a little bit way too much, especially when the movie opens where there is blue milk, and it was like, oh, that's blue milk from this first Star Wars, and but the shot lingers for way too long, like a few seconds longer than I anticipate. So it was like, oh, so that's a homage. Okay, I get it. And then they showed the two guys from Cantina, and was like, huh, okay, that was fun. And then they showed Tarkins out of nowhere. I don't have the problem with the CGI, but seeing Tarkins in the movie, it just feels weird. Like he didn't do much. He just stand there and gives orders. And then, of course, we got Darth Vader. Darth Vader is one of the better cameos, especially what he did towards the end was really, really awesome. And also C-3PO and then R2-D2 was there. That is kind of took me out of the picture for me, because as we know, the spaceship flew away in the end with Princess Leia. But how the hell were they there? Because the Admiral was not in the base, and Princess Leia clearly went there with the base. Was the Admiral, whoever led the attack. So she wasn't on the base, but the C-3PO and R2-D2 were in the base. So how the hell did they get into that ship? Shouldn't they be at the end of episode 3? Shouldn't they are service droid in with Princess Leia? I don't know. I found it to be a little bit out of place. Senator Organa is here, and he had a line saying, "I must go to I must go back to warn my people." It was like, oh, so that's a nod. So he's gonna die, and it was like, okay, that was a little bit unnecessary. Oh yeah, and there was a cameo from a character, Hela, in Star Wars Rebels, which I think was a pretty good show. Some people really hated it. I don't get the hate. Now, at this stage, I just want to go a little bit off topic. Just want to give you my quick thoughts on the other Star Wars movies, since we are talking about this as being anthology, a tie between the prequels and the original trilogy, which that's not how I see it, but many people say like, oh, it's the tie between prequels. I really don't see it. I just see it as like a war movie. It's like a fan version, a Saving Private Ryan version of the Star Wars. So first movie, Star Wars: A New Hope was the first one I seen when I was 13, I think. And did I enjoy it? Not really. I found it to be really boring, to be honest. And when I see this, I see it that this movie was the Star Wars movie I see the least. And I seen it a couple years ago when my friends were doing a Star Wars marathon, and it didn't get better for me. It didn't. It tells you a very clear, straightforward storyline, something better in prequels, but the acting was a little bit still obnoxious, especially from a very young Mark Hamill. I didn't regard him as a really good actor until his voice work was the Joker and some of his later works, especially on TV. It was by then I realized, oh shit, he's actually really good. Carrie Fisher, rest in peace, had a really strange British accent. I don't know why. Alex Guinness was okay, but clearly he doesn't look like he wants to be involved in the movie. Who else? And then Harrison Ford was the only highlight. He was good. People say Darth Vader was awesome. I don't know. Like in the first movie, he didn't really do much apart from killing Obi-Wan, which Obi-Wan let him do that. That part always like felt out of place for me. But then I heard Alec Guinness just doesn't want to do any Star Wars movies. So there you go. That's the logical explanation you can get. So yeah, Harrison Ford is the only good actor. The story was mundane. Pacing was a little bit too slow. For this kind of movie, you don't need to have that kind of slow pacing. It's a very straightforward fairy tale like story. Just get to the point. I felt like the movie could have been shorter. That's my feel. But regardless, I think it's an okay movie. I don't think it's one of the all-time best. It is a film, after all, it is directed by George Lucas. People praise him really, really high, but in full honesty, he's not a really good writer. He can have great ideas, but I'll say this. He's not a very good writer. Some of the dialogue he wrote, his dialogue, as some people say, that he doesn't trust his audience. He has to express the emotion to the audience. This kind of gets worse in episode 1 and 2. So I really don't like the way he wrote the dialogue. It felt really out of place. So I gave Star Wars. So basically, this is like a 7 out of 10 for movie for me. Empire Strikes Back is where I really starting to love Star Wars. It's an excellent movie. You don't need to hear me praise about it. Everyone was saying how great this movie is, and this is the movie I watched the most. Everything from John Williams' score, everyone's acting improved significantly. Darth Vader, James Earl Jones, holy shit, he's the man. The special effect, the trinity of how I see movies. Plot, it was really great. There was big twist. The characters, amazing. Their chemistry, you care about them, you root for them. And also the special effect, top notch, holds up even today. So the Holy Trinity works perfectly. This movie is definitely a 10 out of 10 movie. I like it every time I see it, and every time I see it, it gets better. Return of the Jedi seemed to get a lot of hate from people, mainly because of the Ewok. I really liked it. First half was a little bit slow for me, but second half was really, really good. Especially the fight with Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker, that was really epic. Um, it reached to a new emotional height, and then the ending was the best out of all the Star Wars movies. Episode 1, oh yeah, Return of the Jedi, I give it a 9 out of 10. It's not a perfect movie, but it's a really, really good movie. It's not perfect. Episode 1 is where it's kind of jumped the shark, where I don't see, there's not a lot of characters were not very interesting. Again, George Lucas took the helm, so should have seen it coming. Jar Jar Binks, everyone that you know the drill. He's the most ridiculous thing ever. No need for me to expand. But it is exciting and kind of fun. Like I enjoyed it. Like the pod racing, the lightsaber fight. There were some epic battles. Even though the CGI doesn't hold up that well, I still think that I still think it's good enough for what it is for the time. It's perfectly enjoyable. I don't see any harm in there. I give it a 7 out of 10 still. But same grade I give to A New Hope. But just to let you know, I like New Hope slightly more better. It's kind of on the same level. Episode 2 is in my opinion, the worst of the Star Wars movies. Frankly, it's just straight up boring. The dialogue was drill, and then the special effect is they overused it way too much. Somehow it was worse than the first one, especially when when Obi-Wan fight with Jango Fett, and then there was explosion, and he doesn't look to have a single scar on his face or body. So that movie kind of sucked. The end lightsaber battle was okay, but couldn't save the entire movie. So I give that movie 6.5 out of a 10. Somehow it's get worse with each viewing. The Revenge of the Sith, I liked it. It was pretty damn good. This is the first Star Wars movie I've seen in cinema. And I can remember the first time when I walked into the cinema, I was late, and I saw the lightsaber battle, the space battle, and it was fucking epic. It blew my mind. Never seen anything like that in the theater before. Never seen anything so epic. There was some bad dialogues, but mostly it went full circle. To me, that is the prequel that we actually need instead of Rogue One. But Rogue One's still a better movie, which I will get to very soon. So Revenge of the Sith, I really liked. I think it's a good movie. Not as good as not as good as like Episode 5 or 6. Still good enough on its own. 8 out of 10. And then Force Awakens, I really liked it. I think it was a very enjoyable movie. There was a lot of interesting character. To me, this is the New Hope movie that I want to see instead of the New Hope movie we actually got. I liked Rey. I liked Finn. The only downside is I don't feel like the script is very creative, and there were some characters that were built up to be really, really cool, but not really. Like the Captain Venom. Brienne, I forgot her character name. And then the way Harrison Ford died was not really that effective, because when you write your character and you kill him off for the sake of killing him off, you can tell, like you can really tell. And there was a lot of question like deliberately made to be unanswered. I felt like, is it for the sake of setting sequels? I don't like when movies does that. Still, a really enjoyable movie. It has a lot of emotion. I really liked Rey, and Kylo Ren is a really interesting villain, a really unique one, something we don't see now a lot nowadays. So this movie gets an 8.5, 8.5 out of a 10 for me. I really don't see it will bump into a 9 for me. So there you go. Those are my thoughts of the Star Wars movies. So how about Rogue One? I'll tell you at the very end of the video how I rank all these Star Wars movie in my view. Rogue One has the distinction of being a war movie instead of a Star Wars movie, which I found to be somewhat ironic because the film is called Star Wars. But this is a purely war movie. It focused on the event rather than the story. Frankly, I find the movie has similar problem with Dunkirk this year. What I meant by that is most of the characters were really undeveloped. For instance, there was a pilot in the movie. He got caught. His name is Bogey, something like that. Bogey Rook. His plot wasn't developed that much. He started out by saying like, look, I just want to deliver a message. And then suddenly he became a resistance fighter. I was like, okay, what the hell happened? Something in between. I don't know. Like he said, all he does was it like your father, was it talking to Jyn Erso saying, your father trusted me. I was like, okay, so how does that help with your character? There was a lot of characters that's like severely underdeveloped. Cassian was one of them. I read a review saying like explaining how the characters were developed, how each characters actually are interesting in this movie. One of them, they were saying like Cassian started out by joining the rebel, and then like he doesn't trust people, and then because this mission, he suddenly he throughout the movie he started to believe in people more, and then, well, in the end he sacrificed himself for the greater good. But my argument is, didn't he does that at the beginning of the film? Why does he suddenly help Jyn Erso? Why does he suddenly disobey orders? While in the beginning of the film, he said like, I always obey the orders. Some of the orders I don't really like. By the way, I want to say I really like that aspect. I really like how the movie tried to make the rebels seem like the kind of really gray area stuff, because people do a lot of dirty shit. I like that aspect, but it wasn't expanded upon. Same as Cassian's character, it wasn't expanded upon. I don't know why he suddenly changed his mind to help Jyn Erso, other than he thinks, oh, I have to do the right thing. There was, I think, the only moments I can pinpoint that could help a character development was Jyn Erso telling people about hope. But that speech didn't end up well, because 90% of the council, I didn't really like that scene, because it's a very good speech, but it doesn't help to progress the plot. It's just there for the audience. It doesn't progress the plot. And the whole council say, we still go on with the decision that we make. It kind of pisses me off. And frankly, it's granted the plot to a pope. But the only logical explanation I have for that speech was the other people. They rallied some of the people to go against to fight the war, to go to complete the Rogue One mission. But firstly, most of them are not even present in the meeting, and secondly, the ones who decided to fight for her has already made up their mind before the speech. So this speech is purely done for the audience. Like she said, hope is the best weapon we got. So I feel like this is a really good moment, but it amounts to nothing. And I hate movies that does that. The only character that I feel like has some kind of development was K2SO. He was the most, he has shown more personality than others. And clearly you can tell, like, at the beginning he said like, oh, Cassian told me to do that, and why should I care about you guys? And little by little, he actually does build up chemistry with Jyn Erso. And then when K2SO was destroyed, it hurt. I really felt really hurt, and it was like, I almost cried. It's like, ah, don't do that. That was one of the saddest deaths scene. But everyone else, I don't feel like it. Especially Donnie Yen's. Donnie Yen's character is the most interesting of all. He is kind of like a Jedi. He has a Force sense. Chiru, that's his name. He is kind of the spiritual leader. He gives people guidance. I really wish that we could see more of him, because the way I see it, he is the real person who bounded the group together. And I can see the intention of putting him in the movie, and some of the actions he does shows it. He sometimes talk to Cassian, like the part where Cassian is about to kill Jyn Erso's dad, and then Chiru warned her, saying like, why does he want why is he, I don't remember the exact quote. He was like, why does he have the intention to kill? And then like Jyn Erso was like, nah, don't do that. So I feel like there's a lot of good story that could expand upon was left in the editing room. And it was, I don't know which version. Either there wasn't enough development and they have to add into more development, or they have more, or like the story was perfectly fine, but then the editor ruined it. If it's up to me, I say it was the former. Gareth Edwards, I seen Monster, I seen Godzilla. He's good at making spectacles. He's good at building suspense and terror, but character development, like I said, in the new Godzilla movie, there is none. The characters were really, really flat. And at least the first half movie, that's what I felt. I felt the characters were so uninteresting and flat, but they had the potential to be very, very fun and very endearing. There was which leads me back to the main character, Jyn Erso. She has the most development out of all the characters, but but her character wasn't really well written either. At the beginning, we see in the film, we see her as a kid, and then her parents were getting captured, getting captured, or just forced to go back to the Empire. The mom died, and it's really amounts, but the desert mom really never comes back to anything. In fact, there was a death scene. There was a dream sequence where she dreamt that her mom was there, and that's about it. And then there was a time skip, and then suddenly Jyn Erso grown out to be an adult. We don't know what exactly happened there, apart from during the conversation, she was talking to Forrest Whitaker's character, what's his name, Saul Guerrero, who was talking to her and was like, "You abandoned me," and I was like, okay, what the hell is going on? This was never well explained. And then when she saw her father, she started crying. But moments before, she was like, oh, my father betrayed the Empire. I know that scene was supposed to make you feel something about her character, but I just don't feel like it. Because like I said, it's the same problem with Dunkirk. There's no build-up. Dunkirk has individual moments of heroism, has individual moments of good deeds, but I don't care about it because there was no build-up to why they do the things they do. The only moment when that works in Rogue One was K2SO. He decided to stay behind and help other people because there was build-up. We can relate to his character. His character wasn't flat. His character was actually very interesting. He has some sarcasm, and he has sarcasm, and he's afraid. Um, he cast out. He is vulnerable like all of us. He's the only character that shows some real vulnerability, real humanity. Other characters, I don't see it. They are very stereotypical. And let's not talk about Base. He is just a man with a big gun. That's how I call him. He's the man with big gun and nothing else. Which is kind of sad because all these characters have unique traits, have something interesting to develop, but they didn't go for there. The villain, I feel like it was completely useless. Orson Krennic, that's his name. He basically, throughout the film, he takes orders from people, and then there was just power struggle that we do not care about. I just want to see good and evil, like them fight. Frankly, I don't. Frankly, if we get rid of him, I feel like the film will flow much better. He's just an antagonist, but it's not in a really well way. Like, in fact, his action doesn't have much consequences because they were not his action. They were action by Tarkins and Darth Vader. They give the orders, and he just followed them. He has shown some interesting personality. Now here, I just want to say, all the actors were good. Like, there's no bad performance. And all of the character has unique traits of personality. But uniqueness goes only so far. You need something to keep the audience going, like development. And how that uniqueness played out in the story. We don't see that, unfortunately. Especially in the second half of the movie, any story development, any backstory from the previous character are all given up. Except towards the end when Jyn Erso said, like, you murdered my father. It's like, what? That's just, okay, that's kind of a, I don't know how does that come from. That's just out there. So yeah, like I said in my previous video, I think the script was cool. But script was cool, and the story was more unique than Force Awakens. I'll give them that. But the characters were just very, very flat. And frankly, to be honest, I'm not disappointed in this movie. Everyone's saying they were all either really, really like it or either really, really disappointed. But frankly, my view is somewhat in the middle, because before the movie was released, I know there was a reshoot in June, and there was an extensive reshoot. I noticed this because the tone of the trailer changed very, very drastically. The first trailer I saw, there was a really dark theme music, and then and then Forest Whitaker was saying like, "What would you do when they catch you? What would you do when they break you?" The second trailer is more like hope is our best weapon, and then like you see more of Jyn Erso giving speeches, and then so I can clearly tell that there was a shift in tone and there was a drastic shift in script. Luckily though, this movie, they made a somewhat competent, somewhat decent movie. Not a great movie, but somewhat decent movie. This could easily be another disaster like Fantastic, but thanks heaven and Lord, it didn't turn out to be Fantastic, because that movie was an atrocity. Fuck that movie, seriously. Oh yeah, Darth Vader was there, and I honestly don't have a problem with him saying, be careful not to choke on your aspiration. I found it to be funny. Felt like there's a little bit Anakin in there. So yeah, why does he has to be always serious? So I don't have a problem with him saying that. The ending battle was really, really cool. But the final shots was Leia, and then they went off. It was really kind of off-putting. It was like, okay, so this story takes place a day before The New Hope. It's like, wow, that was really forced. I didn't like it. Some people really liked it. Some people were saying like, oh, that makes me appreciate New Hope even better because what they did, how they sacrificed. But here's the thing. That's another. This is the last thing I have problem with. People like every single character died. Okay, in case you didn't know the movie, everyone died in the end. And this is the biggest problem I have with the movie. There was a lot of people saying like, "Oh, this is very very good because in movies before they wouldn't kill off characters, and I'm glad they have the balls to do that." I can see where they come from, and I do agree, but there's an extent. There's a kind of a boundary of what you can do. I have no problem with the characters being killed off. Like I won't be that upset. Like even if there were characters I like, I wouldn't be angry with them killing off characters. I would respect their decision. But here's the thing. The way they did it wasn't that good. Because throughout the movie, though, you don't have much character development thing. Especially the pilot and base, pilot base, Cassian, everyone. In fact, everyone apart from Jyn Erso and K2SO doesn't have much development. So having them killed off just kind of make the matter worse. Just make them to be like more kind of a disposable character rather than somebody who has something. I'll tell you one example. Magnificent Seven, released earlier last year, has a lot of character killed off, but they left some of the character to be alive. And the ending was them passing through the graves of their dead comrade, and seeing them walking out the sunset is a really satisfying feeling. So on the one hand, you have somebody to commemorate them. You have somebody to memorize your fallen comrades. So they won't be forgotten. They will have an effect in the story. But here, I just see a bunch of people dying, heroically maybe. But throughout the rest of the movie, rest of the franchise, nobody even mentioned any one of their names. So basically, I don't feel like they got the thing they deserve, and therefore I don't feel like they got the attention they earned. So I feel like that's really sucks actually. That makes me not caring them even more, even though some of them may be the characters we should care about. So I really don't like the way they did it. I really wish they have one or two characters alive to at least carry on their legacy, at least as a living proof that they existed. Because so far, I don't see anyone in Rogue One live, like anyone involved in Rogue One act lives after A New Hope. So there's no one to carry the living legacy. I remember in 300, before Leonidas have the big battle scene, he sent out one soldier to carry out to tell people the tales they did. There is a reasoning behind why he does that. It's because even though they are prepared to die, they're prepared to sacrifice, but they want people to know why they did it. They want people to know that few fight against the weak, that people are willing to stand up to tyranny. But here, I don't get that feeling. So yes, I am disappointed in the ending. Even though I know why they did it, I don't agree the reason they did it. So finally, to wrap it up, what grade would I give Rogue One? I'll give it a 7.5. It's not a bad movie. Honestly, I don't think it's a bad movie. In fact, I think it's pretty decent. It's kind of above average, but it's nowhere near as great as other films. I would still see Rogue One when it's pop on TV or when I'm bored or watch it on Netflix, but I'm not gonna get Blu-ray or or recommend it fanatically to other people. So how would I rank all the Star Wars movie, including Rogue One? Well, Empire Strikes Back definitely on the top, no debate. Second one is Return of the Jedi, which I gave a 9. Force Awakens is the third, 8.5. I think that was a really, really good movie, even though it wasn't that unique. Revenge of the Sith is slightly on top. I think I gave it an 8 a couple minutes ago, or 7.5. I don't remember. Revenge of the Sith is the Force. The 6th is Rogue One, and the seventh is the for New Hope, and then the last two is Episode 1 and Episode 2. Episode 2 being the last. A friend of mine told me that like it's no point to really judge Star Wars movie, because frankly the way Star Wars movie told is a history that is not known to us. Star Wars movie are part of a history, so good or bad, it is history. It happened, and I feel like that was an interesting way to see it. That makes me feel better about Rogue One, even about Episode 2, because these are the things that happens. The whole movie, when they streamline it, you can see a kind of a historical event that happens. These movies shape the world, and it will always be there, good or bad. And people was afraid like whether making more Star Wars movies would diminish it. I don't think so, and I strongly disagree, because like he said, the Star Wars movies are just history, are events that happened. Things can always happen, good or bad things, they always will happen. And so far we have built such a big and diverse universe that even if we have a really bad movie, it can still fit to be part of it. That's the beauty of Star Wars. That's why there's so many video games, so many people write books about it, so many people make TV shows, which by the way, Clone Wars, one of my favorite animated TV show of all time. Go check it out. Both version. Frankly, I like the 3D version better. Some people complained it's not following chronological order, but I really like this style because they were making it like a war promotional movie. It's kind of like an old, the propaganda movies that people made in World War II. So yeah, these two TV shows are really great. I really like Rebels as well. In fact, everything Star Wars related. I never hated anything. Not even the bad Star Wars movies. I enjoyed all of them, say apart from Holiday Special, which I don't consider to be canon in Star Wars in any way. Yeah, so if you haven't seen Rogue One, I still recommend you go check it out. Just don't think that it's going to be as good as Empire, because it really isn't as good as Empire. So overall, Rogue One, okay movie, good movie, but not great movie. I don't love it as much as most people do. So, well, this is done. My next video, I'm gonna talk about the reason why I like X-Men Apocalypse. And probably for the don't love one, I might talk about Deadpool. But I need to see that movie again. I'm actually also thinking about doing Kingdom of Heaven. But I love this movie so much that I'm planning to do a bigger video than what I'm doing right now. So yeah, please keep track of my videos. And for the new subscribers, thank you for your support. I really hope more people view it, and please leave a comment. I've seen some people left comments on my videos, and I really like having discussions. Even if you have opinions that don't agree with my video, I still want to see them, because I love talking about movies with other people. So I really do want to see other people's comments. So as always, please click like and subscribe if you like it, and leave your comments. And if you think I'm good, you're pretty good too.